Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darrell Rader. I'm the president and CEO of Minaurum Gold. Before we begin today, I'd just like to cover a few of the forward-looking statements. Please do your due diligence before investing. We have a very comprehensive website that outlines exactly what our plans are and what our projects are in Mexico. For those of you that don't know Minaurum, we are a discovery generator. And what we mean by that is we are focused on making Tier 1 gold and silver discoveries in Mexico. We are looking for new projects. We're not recycling old projects. We're not looking for leftover mineralization in old mines. We're looking for new things. So what we look at is, we're looking for, if it's a gold project, we'd like to conceptually see at least a 3 million ounce gold potential. If it's silver, we like to see at least conceptually a 100 million ounce target at grades in excess of 350 grams per ton silver. Over time, we built up a team that includes individuals such as Dr. Peter McGaw of Mag Silver fame, David Jones of well-known background in Guerrero Gold Belt, having discovered Los Filos, co-founder of Torex Gold. And we put together a team that has made major discoveries and has monetized major discoveries. The way we've structured the company is such that we are focused on advancing discoveries, taking them as far as we can, and then monetizing them either through spinning them out or a direct sale. The idea is not to monetize the entire company because we built a pipeline. The idea is monetize the asset, spin out the proceeds to investors, then plug the next project in the pipeline into that flagship space and keep drilling from there. This gives you a bit of an idea on our track record. We, of course, have this presentation on our website as well, but our team's discovered over 300 million ounces of silver in Mexico in the last 2 decades, and in excess of 15 million ounces of gold in Mexico in the last 2 decades, and a number of various discoveries. My background is I was a long-time Corp Dev member of both Impact Silver and Energold Drilling, was with them for 10 years through their early stages. I left them to join Minaurum in 2010 when the company started trading on the Venture Exchange in March of 2010. Just a bit on our capital structure. Coming out of the gate, originally in 2010, we had 75% institutional ownership and analyst coverage. We drilled aggressively, and in 2014, we started running out of money. Our backers started running out of money, and we started chasing basically non-traditional sources of financing. And as such, we started basically placing stock in Europe, and we were financed by a number of generalist family offices and funds. As of today, about 75% of our shares are held in European hands. And it's just now that we're starting to come back to North America and start pursuing things such as analyst coverage and starting to market here in North America again. In the last 2 months here, we've upgraded our US listing to an OTCQX listing. We also, in the summer now, we're picked up by the SILJ ETF, so we're one of their holdings now. And as you can see from our share structure, we have about 150 million market cap and $6 million in the treasury. So our focus in Mexico, we have this district scale portfolio, but our focus is on the Alamos silver project in northern Mexico, southern Sonora State. It's the northernmost project you'll see on the slide here. That just gives you an idea of the neighbors. The key thing to note is this is an area of significant mines. We have a neighbor directly to the north of Alamos, which is Cobre del Mayo, the Piedras Verdes mine. That is a 55,000 ton per day open pit mine and about a 4,000 ton per day underground operation. They border us directly to the north. They're copper silver dominant, and we are to the south of them, and we're more silver dominant in our systems. This gives you a bit of a brief overview of the project, but I'm going to sort of sit on this slide here. This basically explains what this opportunity is. The Alamos project was a significant historical producer that, up to the point we got involved, had never been consolidated. Nobody had ever done modern exploration. It had never been drilled. And there was a Mexican family that took 8 years and almost $2 million US to consolidate this project. This is the same family that, at the same time they were doing this, they assembled the Santa Elena project that they sold to the, initial Silvercrest iteration. And so we came into the situation, saw these veins. These are veins that grade multiple kilos per ton historically over widths of 7 to 8 meters. There are localized areas underground that these veins blossomed out to the 20-meter width at those kind of multi-kilo grades. So it was a very rich system, but as I said, it had never had modern exploration done on it. As we are, as I mentioned, earlier stage explorationists, we'd like to target new things. We saw this historic area, we saw that there is a lot of residual mineralization left behind, and we decided to focus instead on finding new things in the district. And so for the last 2 years, this sort of gives you a progression through the development of the project. We started discovering all these new vein systems to the east and the west of the historic area. The historic area on the map is outlined in black. The red are the new vein systems. This is about a year ago, even more vein systems, and as of today, we have over 24 individual vein systems that we've identified in the camp. Now, none of these individual vein systems that we've identified have ever seen historic mining. There's small little exploration shafts that go down several meters and a lot of little foxholes here and there. So we had to determine now, why were there so many vein systems that hadn't seen production, and production was just focused on the one main vein that in the historical area there. So we basically took a version from Peter McGaw, a version of the Buchanan model, and came up with a theory that we were looking at a system of up-thrown and down-thrown blocks. And what that means is, looking at the Buchanan model, is that the historic areas that had the 200 million ounces mined out of it were exposed on surface at a very deep level in the system. So basically, the bonanza grade silver was exposed on surface. The Spaniards came, found it, mined it, and it was mined up to about 1908. The other veins that we started discovering, we determined were extreme high-level expressions of underlying vein systems, and so the target naturally would be to drill at depth and prove that that is indeed what is happening in this area. This is just an idea of these up-thrown and down-thrown blocks. For you geologists, it's a system of horsts and grabens. But within 7 holes, we basically proved that this is exactly what's happening in this camp. The neighboring vein systems, of which we mapped 24 of them, they are indeed high-level expressions. Our hole 7 basically drilled at a shallow angle to the west of the historical area. It hit, first of all, a vein system called the Nueva Europa vein system, which on surface is a wispy small vein of anomalous grade at a depth of about 100 meters vertical depth. It's a strong vein producing about over 500 grams of silver over 1.2 meters. We went on in the hole, we started hitting a lot of blind veins. Some of them were up to a meter, grading 200 grams per ton silver. These blind veins were basically very high level expressions of veins that hadn't even made it to the surface. And then we hit Europa-Guadalupe, that on a true thickness basis was about 8 meters of almost 1,800 grams per ton silver. And this vein, at a depth of 275 on surface, is a wispy vein that has little pockets of high-grade mineralization, but isn't a very strong vein system. At a depth of 275, it's a very strong system, coherent, running very high grades, similar to that which was historically mined. Now, we were sort of at that situation where juniors that make a discovery sort of find themselves at is, which way do we want to go now? Do we want to drill this, for lack of a better word, into Swiss cheese and put lots of holes and be scared of stepping out of mineralization? Or do we want to keep looking for more in the district? And we took the decision that we wanted to, basically, we hit this, now let's step out and look at the other vein systems, because we wanted to prove, first and foremost, that this is a district project, not just a single high-grade vein system. So for the last 2 years, we have spent millions of dollars and basically 2 rigs drilling full-time, putting 2 to 3 holes into every new vein system that we've encountered on the project. So after 2 years now, we're just drawing to an end of that first phase process. We've pretty well proven unequivocally that this is a large silver district. And what you see here on the projector is basically just the highlights of the holes we drilled. Bear in mind that these discoveries are on new vein systems. They've never been drilled. These things are kilometers apart. We have now drilled productive veins over a 6-kilometer by 12-kilometer region. The grades are all over the map, as you would kind of expect, drilling new discoveries. Basically, we find a new 3-kilometer long vein system, poke 2 holes in it, hope for the best. What we're really trying to hit is productive veins. And productive being, if we can hit 100 grams to say a meter of 400 grams, that proves to us that the vein's productive, and we should at some point go back, step out, and see where these things form into chutes, because this is a chutey system. So as you can see there, a number of wide intercepts. Obviously, the Europa-Guadalupe hole, 8 meters of 1,700 grams. More than likely, we hit a silver chute there. Things like San Jose, which are 2 kilometers west of that, we hit 10 meters of 200 grams. That's not a silver shoot, but it probably shows you're relatively close to a silver shoot because you're starting to get the width and the higher grades that you would expect to see around a silver shoot. We have obviously other numbers such as 20 meters of almost 700 grams silver equivalent. That's probably more of a base metal shoot. But we're finding these systems have high grades located over this entire area, and this basically represents the last 2 years of work. Now what's starting to change with our story is this image basically represents the last few vein systems we have to drill in our big district scale strategy. We will be completing these holes by the end of the year. And the idea is at that point, we're going to probably take a month or two break, regroup, and come up with a sort of a phase 2 drill strategy, which will be focusing on the individual vein systems. So I anticipate probably doubling the number of rigs, at least doubling the number of meters that we're drilling, but we're going to basically go from having quantified the potential of the district to focusing on the individual vein systems. And at the same time, it basically probably almost quadruples the number of holes we're drilling. Right now, based on the way we're drilling, which is more sort of long, shallow angle holes, trying to hit a maximum number of veins in every single hole, it's adding to our geological knowledge considerably, but at the same time, drilling long, shallow angle holes take a long time to drill, and we're probably producing 1 hole per rig per month. Come the new year, when we start ramping up and focusing on individual veins, we'll probably be doing at least 2 holes per rig, and if we can get more rigs, then you're looking at a magnitude of the order of going sort of from 2 holes a month to maybe 7 or 8 holes a month, and starting to drill in areas of known mineralization now. This map here just shows you very briefly the core area. The blue stars are significant intersections. The yellow parts are veins that have yet to be drilled. So those are the ones we're going to be drilling here in the last part of this year. And this basically just shows you all the vein systems we've discovered to date, and the smaller inset shows you what a small portion of this core area is relative to our entire claim package. As I mentioned, the entire northern boundary of our project is the Piedras Verdes mine, a major operation. And our idea here is for the rest of the year is drill probably at least another 9 holes, announce those. We have a few new vein discoveries, and later on in the year announce our exploration plan and budget for the new year, which, as I said, is finally getting us to drilling off the individual vein systems. I don't think we'll be at the point where we're drilling off a resource yet, but we're going to get to the point where we go into these areas where we've hit and say do 200-meter step outs along strike, down dip, and get an idea of how big those individual targets can ultimately be. I mentioned a little bit, just as a side note, a portfolio that we have. We have a district scale project portfolio in Mexico. 90% of our money and our time goes to the Alamos project. About 10% of our money and our time goes to maintaining the district, our districts that we've acquired. These are the things, as I mentioned, that we would eventually like to do a lot of drilling on. Items such as more recent acquisitions are, for instance, Tavicha, which is listed up there. That is a silver district we recently acquired as part of a distressed opportunity. So it's sort of a side thing. We are looking still at acquiring distressed opportunities that we can add to the pipeline and maybe drill in a year or two down as we go through these systems. But for us, the highlight is definitely Alamos. The Santa Marta project that's listed up there is probably our flagship 1B. It represents an entire VMS belt that we control in southern Mexico. Very high-grade gold, very high-grade copper, and that's something that we're just in the drill permitting stage right now for. Catalysts, I think we've pretty well covered them for Alamos. It's completing our first phase program after 2 years of drilling, and we'll, of course, update the market as to what our plans are beyond that. And then on the portfolio developments, we still may do a couple acquisitions before the end of the year. Thank you. And are there any questions?
Quick question, if there are any. No. Just... All right, we're about out of time.
Michael, did you have a quick question?
Do you have time, Joe?
30 seconds.
Okay. You're starting to sketch in this vein field. To what extent do you see this kind of like Cerro Moro, like Extore, when they all of a sudden found, say, a master vein and then springboarded from there to find the vein field?
So where do we see ourselves in that process? Or, I think we're sort of a bit more comparable to like a Silvercrest, whereas you recall Silvercrest did a lot of years of underground mapping and sampling and drilling with a rig or two. and then hitting that tipping point and really going full blast after they understood the system. We're basically at that tipping point now where we're going to go full blast and start drilling these individual vein systems. But we're still pretty early stage into what appears to be a very large silver system.
All right. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.